Animation vs. live action. Which is better? For the longest time, these two mediums have been around, entertaining us in different ways. But which one is truly better? Let's take a look at some of the pros and cons of each to find out. Live action. First up, we got live action, the original form of entertainment. People have been putting on plays since the beginning of human civilization. And even before that, our hominid ancestors were probably making funny faces at each other, which is the origin of all comedy. By the way, so let's start with the positives. As you can see, live action is fantastic at replicating reality. The sets, costumes, props, and makeup are all designed to convince the audience that what they are seeing is real. This makes it easier for us to become immersed in the story and identify with the characters. You won't have to suspend your belief as much as you do with animation because everything looks and feels so tangible. It's almost like you could reach out and touch it. Another advantage is that you can capture any location or environment, real or imagined. No need to build a big set when you can just go outside and film on location. Of course, you can also create massive sets and blow tons of money on the production design. But sometimes you don't need all that. A simple handheld camera and a good idea are all you need to get started. In fact, this has led to a surge in independent filmmakers making their own movies on their own terms without the help of a big studio. They're usually pretty low budget and sometimes they're not very good. But there are some gems out there, and it's nice that anyone can pick up a camera and make their dreams a reality. The biggest strength of live action is definitely the acting. There's just something special about seeing an actor portray a character in real time. You can really connect with them on a deeper level and feel their emotions. Plus, there's a physicality to live action that you just don't get with animation. When characters move around, they actually move their bodies in space. You can tell how far away from each other they are by how long it takes for them to embrace. And you can also tell how heavy someone is just by the way they walk. There is a lot of information you can gather from the body language of actors that just isn't possible with animation. Plus, live action can capture any facial expression imaginable, from a subtle raise of an eyebrow to a full-on ugly cry. You'll believe these characters are real people. And if the camera crew does their job right, the transition between shots will be seamless. Movies nowadays rely heavily on CGI and visual effects to make the world more immersive, and it works really well. It is not uncommon to see a live-action movie and be amazed by what the camera crew was able to capture. So now let's talk about the negatives. First off, everything is more expensive. Since we're replicating reality, we need real things like sets, costumes, and props. We also need to pay actors and a large crew to make it all come to life. Not to mention that filming itself is a long and arduous process. It's not uncommon for a movie to take months to film, not including the pre- and post-production stages. Also, sometimes you just can't film what you want to film. For example, certain locations might be off-limits or dangerous to film in, and other times you just can't afford to go there. Another issue is that you can't change things after filming. Sure, you can go back and add CGI, but that costs more time and money. And sometimes it just doesn't look as good as practical effects. Also, you need to worry about the weather if you're filming outside. There is nothing worse than getting halfway through a shot, and then the sky opens up and pours water on your parade. Animation. Now let's talk about animation. This is where artists use their creativity to bring stories to life through drawings, puppets, or computer graphics. Animation is great because it can accomplish anything that live action cannot. Want to create an alien planet? Easy. How about a talking tree? No problem. What about a realistic depiction of the circulatory system? Bring it on. With animation, the only limit is your imagination. Another advantage is that you don't have to worry about the weather, actors getting sick or needing a coffee break. Your characters will stay obedient until you say Also, you can reuse your characters and sets over and over again. So if you're feeling lazy, you don't have to make everything from scratch. Sometimes this can lead to a more streamlined production, which means more bang for your buck. One last thing. Animation is amazing for kids. There's just something fun and magical about watching animated characters play and go on adventures. It's like the most pure form of entertainment. Now let's talk about the negatives. While animation can replicate reality, it's not as good as live action. There's just something about 2D images moving back and forth that doesn't quite cut it. It is obvious that what you were seeing is fake, and that takes you out of the story a bit. Now, if you do it right, you can get away with this. And honestly, most of us know what we're getting into when we watch animated movies. But in general, animation just doesn't look as good as live action. Also, it's not as immersive. You can tell that the characters are either close to each other or far away, but you don't get that visceral reaction as you do with live action. You can't really tell how heavy someone is or if they're crying. Plus, there's no physicality to animation. The characters move from point A to point B, but you don't really see their bodies occupy space. There's no weight to their movements. And since everything is exaggerated for comedic effect, it's hard to relate to the characters on a deeper level. You can't become immersed in their world, and that's kind of the point of entertainment, to escape from reality for a little while. But animation can still be good. Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of animated movies out there that are just as good as any live-action movie. The art might be stylized, but the storytelling is top-notch. And the characters are so well developed that you forget you rewatching a cartoon. Really. It's all about the writing. As long as the story is compelling, you'll be invested regardless of the medium. The verdict in the end? It really doesn't matter which one is better because they both serve different purposes. Live action is great for serious dramas, comedies, and thrillers. It's also perfect for capturing beautiful scenery or depicting the grit and grime of the real world. On the other hand, animation is fantastic for family-friendly adventures, fantasies, and stories with fantastical elements. It's also great for educational material. Honestly, though, it doesn't really matter because they're both forms of entertainment. And that's what matters most. At the end of the day, we just want to be entertained. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Which one do you think is better and why? Make sure to leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel.